Alright guys, I'm back with another video, so I'm going to go ahead and show y'all how to set up lighting systems on data layers with world partition, how to activate and deactivate those layers. So let's get started. First off, I'm just going to show y'all how I did it on this one. So if I go to the level blueprint, then we'll see that right here on this function, I stored this on the game instance. You could do this on the game instance and call it from the level blueprint, all of this logic, or you could probably just do it like this. I probably should have done it all in one place, but this is how I did it at the time. So if we come over here, I just got two variables of type actor data layer, and I have my data layers right here that I can select. This is just given at the end data layer. Also, you can drag out here and promote to variable to create those variables so that you don't have to do them manually. You have to get the data layer subsystem, and you have to set the data layer runtime state for each of those. And the data layer subsystem is your target. And you have to set them to activated or unloaded. Loaded may have worked. I am not an expert on this. I just figured this out on my own. So there's not a lot of information out there, and it was requested that I do this. So here I am, I'm doing it. So right here, I'm just calling the spotlights, and I'm turning them off for all the spotlights if it's daytime. If it's not daytime, then it's nighttime, and I'm turning them back on. So over here under our data layers, and if you don't have that, and you probably won't, because it doesn't open by default, you should be able to go over here to, let's see, world partition data layers outliner. That's where you'll get that from. Yours will be empty. You'll create a new data layer by right clicking in this empty space, and you'll name it. And you can create a new data layer under that data layer. If you want multiple data layers, you can tree them together. I only had one, lighting scenarios. And what you do to add something to a data layer, you just select it, and you go to your outliner, and you select whatever it is that you want to add to it. Let's say I wanted to add this building component here to it so that it gets loaded and unloaded with it. With that selected, I'll right click on that data layer, and I'll add selected actors to selected data layers. So if you add selected actors to new data layer, it'll create a new data layer for you, and then you'll have to rename it. You can also use this to remove selected actors from selected data layers. So if you want to remove something, that's how you do it. So if you want to disable or unload one of these, you just uncheck it, and you'll see that it unloads it. Also, you can hide it if you don't want to unload it. And you need is initially visible, is initially loaded, is runtime, and then you have to set your runtime state. Is it going to start unloaded, loaded, or activated? Honestly, I'm not real sure what the difference is between unloaded and loaded. I'm assuming that loaded means that it'll take up memory, but it'll mean that it'll be easier to and quicker to load in. So it might be the case that in some instances you may want to have it loaded, and then you can just activate it. Or if you don't want to have it taken up memory, You could have it in an unloaded state, and then maybe you'll load it, but then you won't activate it. And then maybe you'll, after a timer, maybe you'll activate it, okay? So I'm just theorizing here. Take that with a grain of salt. Again, there's still a little information on this stuff here, but we could hover over this and press F1, and it'll take you to this right here. And it doesn't actually seem to take you to the right place. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. In the next update, they might have that fixed. But if we come over here to data layers, it'll give you more information on these states. So 7 determines whether a data layer with the is dynamically loaded flag enabled should be loaded, unloaded, or activated at runtime. So as you can see here, they don't actually explain what the difference is between those. It's very vague. You know, they, if you're familiar with this, they tend to explain things with an explanation of things, okay? Like vector transform something would be the description. That's about what you can expect from their documentation. So until further videos are come out, or I have had a time or a chance to explore this further, that's my explanation. So with that out of the way, also, the more I become familiar with this, the more I'll know, and when I do know that for sure, I'll do an updated video on it. So give me a second, I'm pulling slack in my cord. I have my mic right in front of my face so that you can hear me best. So in a new project, what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, New Level. You can go to Open World, and you can create it that way and start with their open world, or you can use whatever level you're in right now, and you can go to Tools, and you can go to, let's see, yes, Tools, it's under here somewhere, Convert Level, right under here under World Partition. So Convert Level, you have to select your level. I'll open it. Map is already using World Partition, is it? Oh, no, this, okay, that's a different level. Let's just open this level and see what's in here. Okay, so it looks like I may have already started one. Let's see. This is the one we were in. So I'll go to Tools, Convert Level. I'll go to that folder and I'll select it. I'll say In Place. If you don't check In Place, it'll make a duplicate of it. In fact, I'll go ahead and say Not In Place. If you do it in place, then it'll reload this level after it's converted it. I'm not going to go into details on the rest of this because I'm not real familiar with it. I'm not real sure what only merge sublevels means, but normally if in the old version of not World Partition, but let's see, World Composition, you had to have a folder with sublevels in it, and I believe that's what it's referring to. So I'll go ahead and do that again. In place. No, let's do it. Let's not do it in place so I can show you what it does. And then it's converting map. There it is. It's complete. You'll get something like this. You just press OK, and you'll be loaded into that level. You'll look around and you'll say, okay, where is everything at? Okay, don't panic. Go to World Partition right here. If you don't have that window, go to Window, World Partition, and World Partition Editor. That'll bring up this. So with that, you'll drag and drop over everything and just load selected cells. So if you have a really large world, you're not going to want to load in the entire world because it'll slow the editor down. That's one of the cool features about this. You only have to load in what you're using. It makes the engine very efficient at working with large worlds. So you'll see now I have this loaded in. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to come over here to the lights. And I'm just going to select all of these. And I'm going to go to data layers. And it looks like they have one called cube. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it lighting. And also, creating layers like this allows you to, like, say, if you want all the layers under this unloaded, you can unload lighting, the lighting layer, or you could individually load in the layers under that lighting layer. So I'm just going to say day. I want to right click and add selected actors to the selected data layer. It'll turn blue, meaning that this is the active one and you have stuff under it that's loaded. If you unload it, it'll ask you to save it first, and you'll see that the lighting is now gone. Also, if you unload the parent, it does the same thing. So let's go ahead and go into advanced. We'll make this as runtime. And I'll go ahead and leave it in an unloaded state. So let's go to the, no, you know what? Let's come over here to the content. I'm going to add feature. I'm just going to add the third person project to it. And then I'm going to drag this guy out here. Actually, let's just not add that. We'll go into the world settings and we'll change this to the BP third person game mode. And now when I start, you'll see I am occupying that character and I'm standing on that platform. You don't see the lighting right now because I have it initially unloaded. But what we'll do is we'll go into the world settings, we'll open this up, and you should see the player controller class. You could do this in the blueprint third person as well. Actually, we're going to do it in the third person blueprint since the player controller is the engine one. So let's just say F key, and you'll see F key right here. And I'm going to get the data layers, get data layer subsystem. And let's see, we'll come down here. So you have all these, you get data layer. You can set data layer runtime state by label or by state. I'm just going to do it this way. And we're going to set that to activated. And I'm going to promote this to a variable. I'm going to compile this and I'm going to set this to the day. And actually, let's do it like this. We'll drag this out and we'll copy and paste this. And we'll set it to unloaded. And I'll do a flip-flop. Flip-flop is just like it alternates. Every other time it'll choose a different one, a different branch. So I don't know what in is recursive is for. I have yet to figure that out. But you'll see when I press F, now it loads and unloads that data layer. So back over here, we can decide maybe we want to add this stuff here to a data layer. So we'll select all of that and we will create a new data layer, and I'll just call it objects, and I'll add the selected actors to it. And you'll see now, and we'll make it runtime, and I'll just choose loaded just to show you that it'll be loaded but it won't be visible. And this time I will use the E key. It doesn't always work if you say E key. Sometimes if you say key E, keyboard E, G, yeah, so it does it on that, but if it's E, it's probably not going to pull up. So I'll do the same thing here that I did on this one. I'll just copy and paste that. But for this one, I'm going to make a new data layer, and I'll call this objects data layer. So as you've noticed, you can call the data layer subsystem from anywhere, which is really cool. So I will just start this data layer off unloaded. Oh wait, no, I was going to show you the loaded. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And I'll press F, and you'll see that's it's not loaded in. But if I press E, okay, if I press E, it's not happening. So alright, so after some debugging, I figured it out. So it's kind of weird, and I'm not real sure exactly why I have to do it this way to get this to load and unload, but I'll go ahead and show you how I did it. So if you look, I put the objects under a parent object. I have them activated, but I have the parent object unloaded. I could probably also do it like this. Yeah, even if they're loaded, it'll activate them, and it works. Now this N is recursive might bring this down to the children. Okay, so see now, because it's under one that's in a runtime state, you can't uncheck runtime state, which makes sense. So let's just say unloaded. It still loads them. So if I come over here and I uncheck this, it may not load them. Let's see. No, it does not. Okay, so now we know what, and I know what in is recursive means. That means that it's going to branch down to the children, and it's going to activate those as well. So if you're wanting to load objects in and out, it can't be on a parent, on an outside branch. It needs to be a child of one, and then you have to load and unload that parent to load in the children. And if you want that to be recursive, if you want this to branch down to the children or include all the children, then you need to have in is recursive set. So let's try this real quick. Let's say I don't do that. Let's see if it'll work now. So if I just duplicate this, and I'm actually just trying to figure this out on the fly, guys. So I guess I'm not doing a very bad job either. This may not work. It works. Okay, so we learned several things. So let's go ahead and recap. To create a data layer, you have to right-click, create new data layer. To add objects to a data layer, you right-click, or you have to select the object first. Then you have to right-click and add selected actors to selected data layer. It seems that to load and unload things from a data layer, they have to be children of a parent, and it doesn't matter if that parent is runtime or not. So in this case, because of the way I did this, it worked. But if you look at it, and I figured that out by accident. If you look at it, this one is in a runtime state, but this one isn't. This one is in a runtime state, but this one isn't. So if I uncheck this and come back over here, this should work. So let's just compile this. And remember, it wasn't working before. Now it's working. Okay? So the thing to note here is that if you're going to load and unload these during runtime, they have to be a child. So they can't be a parent data layer. They can't be an outside one. Those you can't seem to, if they have like whatever is on them, you can't seem to load or unload them during runtime. I don't know if it was like that by design or if that's a bug that'll get fixed later, but that seems to be the case. As you've seen, I can load and unload these parents, and it'll load and unload everything under them if we have is in recursive checked. If we don't, it'll only load that parent object and nothing under it. But then you can load those child objects after the parent object is loaded. So that does work. Also, you don't need to unload and load the parent. And it doesn't really seem to matter if it's unloaded or loaded. The only difference I can think of between these is unloaded means that it's not in memory. Loaded means that it's in memory. Okay? In memory but not visible. And then activated. So these two right here are for the editor only. They're only for you right here. This under advanced is for runtime. So you can change the debug color if you wanted to. I don't really think that's important, but anyway, that's pretty much all I got, guys. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.